Hi, Vinnie. Welcome to the Happy Healthy Caregiver podcast.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me, and thank you to all the listeners and viewers.
Yeah, I'm excited for people to kind of get to know Vinnie and get to know your story and what you're all about. So I appreciate you spending the time with me here today. We always start the show though with a little bit of words of inspiration, motivation, just things that have spoken to me as a caregiver that I want to pass on to other family caregivers because maybe it will touch them in some way. So let's get your thoughts on something from the Happy Healthy Caregiver jar today. So, oh, I like this one. It says, I like all of them, obviously, I pulled them, but I always say that your life is made of two dates and a dash. Make the most of the dash. Have you ever heard the dash poem?
I love that. Oh, no, I have not heard of it, but that's
The
that's
fir-
excellent.
the first time I heard it, it was at a funeral. Because that's what people put
That
right on
sounds
your
sure.
gravestones. They put the birth and the death, but it's really your life is the dash. And there's
For
a
sure.
whole poem that I'll actually link in the show notes. But are you living your dash?
I am living my dash. I'm 100% living my dash. I think the dash started off small, but thickened up as the years went on. So I am absolutely living my dash. Thank you for asking. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Do you think that caregiving made that thicken up?
Oh, I think caregiving did a huge thickening process in that dash. 100%. You grow up real quick. You might
Mm,
think you're grown up, but there's nothing like caring for a loved one, a parent, a different generation, even different cultured. The way we've all grown up. Every culture generation is different and changes. So,
mm.
yeah, that dash is definitely probably one of the most happiest processes and growth that I've experienced. So, thank you.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit. Share a little bit about your caregiving story with us, Vinny, for folks who are listening so that they can, we believe, or I believe that family caregivers are the experts in family caregiving. So I want to shine a spotlight on that part of your story. So who did you care for? What was that part of your life like for you?
No, absolutely. So, it was my father that I cared for, so it was a family relative here, and it all happened in every worst case scenario that I could possibly think of. We're
Mm,
in a third world country. Um, Granted, we had some connections with, what we could have with a billion people in South India, in Trivandrum, India. So we went there. My father, I should start with, was diagnosed with cancer,
okay.
throat cancer prior to us leaving. So this was one of those special trips. We didn't want to share the information or news with anyone. We just wanted him to have the best time ever. And that was our goal, just go out there. We don't know what's going to happen. What's your wish? He's like, I want to go to India. I want to check out my family. I want to see people. I want to see things. Okay, let's go. So we end up going to India. And unfortunately, prior to getting to India, we think he already caught a UTI,
Mm,
which obviously, got itself to a degree that we didn't know how to handle anymore. And it happened on the day we were supposed to leave India.
mm,
So the caregiving really started on just the voyage to India, making sure that he was okay, watching him, go from this fun loving, spirited, funny guy, and then slowly decreasing in that manner. And I didn't know if it was just, we're back in his hometown, if the travel itself got to him because he was tired. So we really couldn't put anything to it. But then as we were in India, this progression of always needing help, um, having issues walking, not being able to speak properly, getting very upset, but with the smallest things, becoming, unfortunately, my mom dealt with most of this, but the process of going to the restroom at night,
mm.
the process of just getting angry and in the middle of the night, which again we had no idea what this was about, and this experience just it took me by storm because I would have never expected my father of all people to behave and act in this manner. Um, but it was just something that we saw. Well, I'll get to the fun stuff. As we were leaving,
How long
we
were you there, by the way? How long?
I was supposed to be there for 2.5, 3 weeks. I
Okay.
ended up being there for 7.5, 8 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we ended up going into, my dad had an attack kind of at the hospital. I'm sorry, at the airport while we were leaving. Um, and then, well, he didn't have an attack. I'm sorry. Our flight was delayed, so they had to put us in a hotel overnight. Well, at the hotel overnight, um, you know, he just started panicking. He got really scared. He wasn't sure what was going on. He was acting very strange. He wasn't eating at all. And, we knew that was because of the cancer it hurt. And we just wanted to get him home because he started treatment that week. That was our
Okay.
goal of getting home. We needed to get him home to start treatment. It was a very sticky window apparently that we had, which we did not know either. We end up going to a hospital. Well, now we're at this hospital, and when you start thinking about, you know, again, this is on the caregiving side, you start thinking of so much. It's one thing watching my father, but it's also another thing watching the institutions and how
Mm.
they actually manage the care
In
for elders,
India.
or
Yeah.
in India, where I'm not the best at speaking my native tongue. I can get away with a lot, but
You
really
didn't learn all the
utilizing.
medical terms? Yeah.
And right,
Yeah.
right. And then, yeah, and then, the accent that goes along with it.
Mm.
So that was probably my biggest struggle. The medical terms I had just because of a previous life of IT healthcare, but understanding each other on the accent, how they say things, right? Good point there. That was difficult enough.
Yes.
But watching the situation with my dad going through all this, he went through 5 different departments, and
Wow.
all of those was, he was getting progressively more confused and worse. He was starting to go through sundowning, which I never experienced in my life, and I don't wish that on anyone.
Right.
It was the hardest thing to understand, to see, um, and know when things change. And we stayed with him. My mom and I were at the hospital for 3 full weeks because they did find that due to that UTI, he had a blood infection, which
Okay.
was causing a lot of issues.
Did
So,
they call
we
it
start.
sepsis or was
That's exactly what it was.
okay.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so he did catch sepsis, and he was there. It was a 14-day. I believe
Wow.
here in the U.S. when you do it, it's like 5 to 7 days of um, of going through the process and the treatment. But there they wanted 14. Well, again, the politics, etc. Hey, we have a foreign family here that has the means to, get a hotel down the street as well as stay here. Let's try and keep them here longer, right? There's always that fear of that.
Are you getting taken advantage of?
100%,
Yeah,
right?
you
A
felt
hundred
that.
percent. You felt it, and you saw the care too. They moved my father down to check on down his an otoscope to look down his throat.
Mm.
Well, when they brought him down there, I went down with, and they left him in a room with 20 coughing folks in different age groups, and he's in a bed, laying there looking up. Right? Um, it got to the point where I physically moved him back into the room, and they didn't like that. There's a lot of that respect culture portion of
Right.
it as well, where there's
You didn't
one
want him to
doctor.
get more things, right? Like from all
That's
these sick
right.
people around him. Mm.
Or I don't want them to not take care of him anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the fear. And there, because insurance is something that we didn't have out there. So we have to pay every 3 days, or else they kick you out of the hospital. Right.
Wow.
So you kind of go through, and again, we're getting to the caregiving because I felt like I just dove right into it. Whatever he needed, we were there for him. We got him back home. I'd hate to say that we got him back home because they probably wanted me out of there more than they wanted him out of there.
Because you're the advocate that's like, yeah, poking
Yeah,
at
it
him
was
and
it was
showing
a
him the mirror, be like, hey, this is what good looks like. Yeah.
that yeah, and just kind of making sure that they explain things correctly, and getting my own family members that are physicians from here on the phone with us, around
Mm.
the times of the physicians, and really kind of pushing a medical reason to keep them in here any longer. So long story short, we ended up getting him on the plane, which was another, for caregivers that travel with their loved ones, that process alone, going international, is not the easiest process. The time it takes to get a wheelchair,
Mm.
the waiting, if you have to catch a connecting flight. Um, we were with Qatar Airways, and we had to catch a connecting flight. Well, there's no rush, to get my dad and my mom together at one point, my mom was walking when my dad was in a wheelchair. So seeing that's even more heartbreaking, right? Because now you're talking about it's just not one person when you're caregiving; it's really both of them.
Yeah.
And
And your stress is already elevated. Traveling just kind of takes something out of you anyway. Yeah.
yeah, patience. My wife tells me you're the most patient person I've ever met. And I say yeah, sometimes. I guess it depends. But in general, when it comes to things like that, what do you do? Time is the only factor in any of this, and we just had to get back to America. So there was a goal at hand, and I think on the caregiving side was I just created little goals every day. Things to make sure, I know he's going to go through this at 1 a.m. today. Let's figure out how I can, help him and help me
Like the
by,
sundowning and stuff you were
yeah.
anticipating.
I
Yeah.
knew, I knew at 1:30 he was going to want to get up and say, "Get me out of here." Like it was just
Mm.
this nonstop thing for, 2 weeks. And then he just wanted to go to the restroom and come back, but he wouldn't go to the restroom. He would just want to go in there, come back. He just wanted to move. Um, so I turned on some music for him. I turned on some Indian music for him, some of the songs that he liked. I found it on YouTube, plugged it in, and then he just sat there and it was great. Just kind of watching him listening to the music and kind of singing along. And there were times he wanted to get up and do stuff. And I said, you know what? At the end of the day, he's not sleeping at all. He doesn't really sleep during the day. He's not sleeping at night, obviously. I was like, I just have to get used to staying up with him and then trying to catch a break in between.
Mm.
So that was an interesting.
Do you have
um
kids, Vinny? It's
I
like,
don't. I don't
yeah,
have
it's
kids.
like
I have a
having
fur baby.
on demand infant care almost is like what
Yeah.
that reminds, like you have no idea like how long are they going to sleep, when are they going to get up, like it's but good for you for trying, a lot of caregiving I think is about trial and error and trying things like, okay, there's a pattern here, this is going to happen, let me find the thing that I think might calm him, and then the music, and it's smart because I think sometimes it's just like we just keep sometimes beating our head against the wall, and it's a lot of it is trial and error. Did he continue that behavior when he got home, or once the UTI cleared up and did things kind
Well, we got him home. We got him home when we got off of the airplane, and then the next day he went right, or not the next day, the day right after that, he went right into for treatment.
of for his
Um,
throat cancer?
for his chemo, yep, for his
Yeah,
chemo and
he okay.
radiation. Right, he did
Okay.
chemo. Chemo was once a week. Radiation was every day for 28 days. So
Mm.
as soon as we got back, towards the end of November, he started his treatments, and then he was done by December 31st. So
Happy
he's
New
gone
Year.
through all
Yeah.
this. Yeah, Happy New Year. So he went through all that. And I'll tell you, watching him, and it's weird seeing your father go from, this fun, goofy guy all of a sudden to like a completely 180 different person, and then making it out of it. And he's walking slower. He's got his walker with him, um,
That's
but
today. It's like today
that's
he's
as of right now. Yeah,
okay,
sorry. Yeah,
good.
as of
So
right now.
he's
Yeah,
yeah, good. Is he in
yeah. Chemo
remission
already.
or
It seems like it.
okay.
They're doing another PET scan in I think in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Um, I think around July, end of July, they're doing another PET scan just to check on
Good.
um
Yes.
yeah, where it's
We'll
at. But
we'll send up good thoughts on that. And how has it been for
yeah.
you, Vinny? Like juggling your home and your family and your job, of course, too. Like what kind of impacts did that have on everything?
You know, I'm fortunate that I have such a wonderful companion. So my
Mm.
wife is amazing, right? So, my hardest thing was being away from her for that long, and then not knowing where I'm going to see her, and then making sure she's not alone. So that was probably the most stress I really endured, was kind of knowing like, all right, is she going to be okay? Does
Mm.
she have to travel? What are we going to do with the dog? Things like that. Just adding more stress to her. But she found her way to Ohio. Um, she found her way when I left for India. We went to Ohio, and that's where her sister's at. So she
Okay.
spent time there. So when I was in India, I said, "Hey, I'm not coming back as soon as I thought. It looks like it
Yeah.
might be a couple of weeks." Um, she was like, okay. She made sure her work was taken care of. That was her first, mission. Make sure the dog was taken care of, and she basically traveled between Ohio, Arizona. I actually flew and met her because she travels for work.
Mm,
Um, so she's medical director for um, muscular
okay.
diseases.
Wow. So
Yeah, no,
she has a little, the compassionate care, healthcare stuff too. Is Arizona home for you all?
for her,
For
Chicago's
her.
actually home for me.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
where your daughter's at?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Chicago's
love
home.
that.
Yep.
Very cool. And where are your folks now?
They're in Chicago.
Okay.
They're in Chicago. They're
So you're
staying
on
there.
speed dial. Vinny's
That's
on.
right. And I
Yeah.
run an aging in place business, as you know. So I was able to really set them up with everything they needed in the home to make sure my dad was comfortable. I would definitely say that was, a blessing in disguise that I fell into this and,
Did that happen
utilized it right away.
before? You already were working and aging in place when you went to India?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I had been it for a year, and it's kind of one of those things that you get certified because you want to do good, and you realize like, wow, that certification was worth it just to help my
For
family.
your family.
It was
What made
amazing.
you want to
Yeah,
get into that field as a young man?
yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with just in general. I like business. I like finance. I like all that the fun stuff that create some type of entrepreneurship that we all seek. And I was just reading and doing statistics studies that showing that by 2030, 60% of America is going to be over the age of 65. So when
Yeah.
you start looking at that, you're kind of like, all right, where are they going to be housed? Who's going to take care of them? And you asked a beautiful question if I had children, and the answer is it was no. And as I'm looking and reading these statistics, I'm looking at my wife and saying, "Who's going to take care of us? Like, this dog's not going to take care of us.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we going to do?" So then it was like, well, let's start something that we can actually start helping people right off the bat. So I got CAP certified aging in place professional
What does that mean?
specialist.
Tell a little bit about that, like CAP certification, in case somebody's interested in that.
Sure, CAP certification is being able to go into a bathroom and understanding the structure that you need in order to put um, a zero entry shower in,
Mm,
making sure that the membrane is waterproof, making sure that the studs are X amount of feet apart, or
okay.
inches apart, I should say, and then making sure that there's a backbone, like a 2x10 or a 1x10. So when you are ready to put in a chair, a grab bar, those things are already in place.
Gotcha.
Um,
So it's like
that
a
makes it more sturdy.
construction, more like in a
It is.
construction field almost.
It's an absolute construction field with an emphasis on mobility challenge and understanding sight. So lighting
Mm,
is a big part of it. So when we say construction, it's also design, universal design of an area in your room or your home
nice.
that you need. And you always look for like the main areas, right? The bathrooms, the masters, the kitchens,
Yeah.
and then the TV room. Like those are your main rooms to make sure that you have ambient lighting when the time's appropriate, depending on your eyesight. Um, you're going with your circadian rhythm, in your house if you're having trouble sleeping. Just really looking at overall um, the
It's
individual.
interesting. Yeah. And what are
Yeah.
some of the changes you had to make in your parents' place?
Grab bars were the first thing. I mean, that was a big thing for my dad just to walk, being able to set them all up. The other was the shower, making
Mm,
sure that he can just walk right into the shower with his, walker, etc. A bench so he can sit in there. A handheld shower, right? So if he did, he can grab it and shower himself, or if somebody else was doing it, they can actually grab it while he's sitting and he can shower himself. So little things that we thought of. And again, I've been in one. I just remodeled a home right now, one that I purchased, put my money where my mouth is, and I literally opened up all the doorways. 36 inches, 42 inches. You can do a full 360 in a wheelchair in every single room, including the bathrooms I redid and kitchens. Um, but I'll tell you, it wasn't cost. Let me put it this way: it was expensive
it
for
was
anyone trying to.
expensive.
Yeah, it
Yes.
was expensive for anyone trying to flip a home or trying to do this. That it's a tough sell um, to put that kind of money into it. But if you're looking at maybe, and I may be throwing a little real estate in here, but if you're looking to rent it out or owner finance or do something for the veteran side, this is a great
Mm.
option.
Is
Um,
there any help? Like, are there any services out there that if folks, find themselves in the need to kind of get their home in an aging in place state, that is there services that they can tap into to help them with that?
Sarasota, Florida. I'm from Cape Coral, Fort Myers area.
Okay.
But Sarasota is one of the most beautiful cities that actually help builders get their permits faster within a week if the builders are able to show that it's an aging in place home, which
Nice.
is huge because it usually takes 6 weeks to months to get a permit. So a builder, so that's one of the things they've done. Another thing Sarasota's done is they're actually working with different technologies right now in order to help the aging in place.
Mm.
Technologies like home systems, etc. So
Like
I
a
would say
Nest
Sarasota.
camera, or is that what you call that thing? Ring
Yeah.
camera,
Oh,
things
you do
like
a Ring
that.
camera,
Yeah. The
Nest
Nest
thermostat.
thermostat.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Trying to put those kind of to just be more available.
Yeah, it's nice too for a caregiver to kind of be able to help their parents remotely. We talk a lot about things like remote caregiving and long distance caregiving and things like
Mhm.
that. Well, yeah, you certainly, I can tell that you love to build things, and I'm so grateful that you're in this space and that you were able to also help your folks out. What do you see trending? What do you kind of see trending right now in your space that excites you? Are more
Home
people
automation.
like, what does that entail? Like, tell us more about that.
So I'm working on it in my own home. So where you walk in, the doors automatically open through a proximity badge or a fingerprint. Motors on top, literally opening your doors, closing them. So automation that it knows it's you. Lighting inside your house, knowing what time it is, knowing what temperature, et cetera, that you have. Um, the circadian rhythm. I bring that up mainly just for better sleep, better overall health. There are reminders now that you can use with these Chat GPT, et
Mm,
cetera, programs that remind you to fill your medication, take your medication, all through Alexa apps. Alexa's one, but there's obviously many
sure.
more. Josh
Smart
AI, et
speakers.
cetera. Smart speakers. There's a lot out there. Um, Sound systems. Again, bidets.
Yep.
Just coming back from Japan, I was like, these things are amazing. Every house needs to have one. It's the easiest way for elders to really stay clean. And I thought that was amazing. But little fixes like that, lights that automatically go on. So if you go to the restroom, you wake up in the middle of the night, a motion detector will put on a nice ambient lighting on your floor that literally directs you right to your bathroom. And then when you go into the
Nice.
bathroom, the lights automatically turn on. The you know Obviously on these bidets over there, it automatically opens up. And you just have to sit down and kind of walk away. Get back to your destination, and then the light turns off. There is this really cool tool, and I'll plug a guy named Jeff Galea at Boca Tech, which is in Florida. His whole company got certified aging in place.
Okay.
He had the whole company in there. I have an assistant. My assistant has cerebral palsy, so my
Mm,
assistant actually met me there a year and a half ago. And Jeff's big into the theaters and the sound systems, et cetera, smart homes. So we walked in, and my assistant got stuck in his wheelchair. He's got one of those really cool automated wheelchairs. He can stand up and do all this stuff. So, he goes in and he got stuck. He came out. We got him out. We couldn't lift it. It was like 500, 600 pounds. So it was very
yes.
hard to lift it. So
And you're a
we
fit
got him out.
guy. Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
imagine,
it was tough.
yeah. Yes.
Um, so we got him out, and a year later, Jeff goes, "Hey, I'm doing a grand opening. I'd love for you to come and bring your guy too." Well, I couldn't go; I was out of town, but my assistant went, and Jeff redid the whole place, literally the whole place in that specific theater room. He redid it so Garrett could actually, sorry, I said his name, but he could actually get in and make a turn and be able to
Based on
see.
his experience, he was like, oh, this needs work. And he came
Yeah,
back and, oh,
yeah, which I thought that was amazing for a business owner to really take into consideration, and that was in West Palm, so that was
how can
uh,
business owners, like, I used to be, my mom was in a wheelchair for part of her time when she was mobile, and she was in a bariatric wheelchair. And I remember like knowing which restaurants I could easily get her in and out of it,
yeah.
and then just like banging the door at, like, I think it was Marlowe's Tavern. And I was like, oh, it was just felt really hard to get it. What can businesses do to get smarter about that stuff?
I think the first thing is ramps. I mean, the most
Mm,
inexpensive, easy thing is ramps and grab bars. Grab bars in their bathrooms, ramps to help people get into the doors. You look at it, most doors are 28 inches. We need to get them at least 32 inches. So if they do any build outs, 32 inches is the minimum. Get up to 36, 42 inches. That's great. It's great for builders too. So I think for business owners, just being able to, two things, their website themselves, they should have an accessibility side, that you
yes.
can add on. It's a
ADA
component,
compliant.
ADA compliant, that's
Yeah.
the first thing for any business owner. The second thing would absolutely be, if you have a walk-in store, get a type of ramp or something that's easy for people to get in. And, you know, I think depending on the store, it's hard for me to get more into it, but depending on the store, there might be some other options. If it's a clothing store, put up extra bars.
Yeah,
Um,
lower the mirrors, like lower the cash
that's
registers. Like
right. Yeah.
it's just all those things like you notice when you're doing it. I got to the point where it's like I knew on road trips with my mom, it was easy to get in and out of McDonald's. Was did a
Yeah.
really great job of like they had a back entrance. I could get her into the bathroom quickly because it was always like we need to be there
Yeah.
fast. uh and we just spoke about Chicago, you being from Chicago, my daughter living there, and we went to, I think it was North Beach, and I was
Mhm.
so impressed. I like walked out and I was like, oh look, they have something accessible for people to access to
Yep.
get to
Enjoy
the
the beach.
water. Yes, so good job, Chicago. Like hopefully.
Yes. Good job, Chicago. Yep.
Exactly, such an amazing thing. Well, you're building something else too in addition to running your business. You've got Boomer News.
Yes. Oh, thank you. That was so
Yeah,
sweet of you to bring up. Oh,
tell
that
us
was so
about
nice
the
of you. Um,
Boomer News.
Well, you are a sponsor of that, so I want to first say thank you so much for being a sponsor on that and bringing more credibility to the site with what you do and what we're trying to accomplish.
Thank
So thank
you.
you so much. So Boomer Dash News, and there's a hyphen in between, so boomer-news.com. The goal behind that was I was trying to really look for how do I help our Boomer generation get the news that's actually pertinent to them, right? At a certain age, it's kind of, hey, let's look at news that really affect me and what I'm trying to do. So I had 14 categories from caregiving to housing to legal to insurance to travel, healthcare. I should say wellness as well. Things like that that really speak to our boomers. I created a blog as well. I think I have 30 some odd blogs there that just really cater to our boomer generation. So I'm an IT guy.
Yep.
And I do have a little development company that I work really close with. And what we've done is we were able to build an engine that curates all the most read and most popular articles that boomers in that specific age group, and I put 45 to 75 is what I threw in there.
As far as the
And again,
ages.
as far as the ages,
So technically you're calling me a boomer. Yeah. So
yeah, me too. I'm calling myself a boomer too
okay,
at some
yeah.
level, because we're the ones that, again, from just my experience, we're the ones that kind of understand, like, oh, maybe this is something. For example, the legals, the wills, the homes. Oh, my
Yeah.
dad has a bunch of businesses. I need to figure this out. What's going to happen to him? But at least kind of throwing it in your, reading scenario
Yes.
for the day. So what I did was I created Boomer News, and what it does is literally it grabs all these awesome articles from across our country. We do have some internationals that we grab info from, but we bring it into our site. So you have a nice, easy newsletter to read. It's literally all news feeds. Our advertisements and our sponsors are the ones that have helped us with this to make sure that we can continue funding this, making sure it's a great resource, changing things as we need to make sure that the experience is there, that people are getting the information they want. We have a newsletter, which I love because our newsletter feed, you can get it monthly, weekly, or daily.
Mm.
So there's no ifs, ands, and buts. We're not forcing you to get something every week. And again, I built the thing, so I have all control in the back end. We're literally not doing anything other than trying to provide you guys with the best news out there. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for giving
Yes.
me the opportunity to plug that.
Well, I think curated things are just, we're all really busy, right? And we're like trying to juggle a lot of different things, particularly if you're family caregivers, you're trying to get smarter about the, aging in place and older adult space for ourselves and for maybe those that we care about. And, mine's not as automated and as amazing, but definitely I have the same kind of idea with newsletter is that, once a week, giving folks something happy, something healthy, something caregiver related, because I want to make that easy for people. Like I
Yeah.
know they are just running a lot of different directions. So we'll be sure to link so folks can kind of to check that out. But I love you have a passion for sure of building technology, building physical spaces, and helping older adults in the process. So that's amazing. I want to kind of flip to a
Oh, thank you.
self-care stuff. You had told me that, a unique self-care tip that you learned on the practical side. Like we talk about the 8 categories of self-care for me, and practical being one of them, is to always remember your why and your what, and to accomplish and to find the easiest route. Like explain a little bit about why that practical care tip is important to you.
Um, for real, I think it just has to do with you. It goes back to time. I really live my life in timelessness as much as possible. If anyone even understands what that means, I just take things day by day, hour by hour. If I know some future thing is coming up, I'll plan accordingly. But you can't overplan anything in life. I learned that from this trip with my parents. We had no idea that was going to turn out the way it was. That I was going to lose, 4 months of work, as an example. Come back and start all over again. You never think of that stuff, but those are all things that um, you can't control, right?
Yeah.
So think of things in a practical manner of just, um, let's handle the situation at hand now. Well, everything works the way it's supposed to, as long as you don't give up, as long as you continue, being motivated and understanding what your goal is. And fortunately enough, my wife and I have been um, okay in life. We obviously all have our problems and struggles, health wise, etc. But in general, maybe when you do as much traveling as we have the opportunity to do, you see the rest of the world and how they live.
Yeah.
You see how grateful this country has been to every one of us. We're all foreigners, so like how lucky we are to be able to express ourselves and do these things. Like that to me is just practical.
Yeah.
You live day by day. You do what you can do. You help as many people as you can, and good things always happen. We have nothing to feel bad about. Just take care of ourselves, take care of our health. You said self-care. That's probably one of the biggest things. Take care of yourself so you can continue doing good things.
What does
So,
your self-care look like, Vinny? Like what are some of the things that you prioritize for your health and happiness?
oh, I think for me, I like to play. So as much as playtime as I can have, it's like being a kid again in the 80s. As much as playtime I can have, I will take advantage of it as much as I possibly can. If I have 5 minutes to go do something and hang out with a friend, I'll go do it. If I have 5 minutes to bother my wife and she's in between a break, I'll go run and do that. Mess with my dog. I think for me is just a lot of the simple things that um, there's no control over anything, right? There's no control. You do whatever you want. You just have a good time. And
Mm-hmm.
I think finding time to play is big. That's just on the mental side. I think on the physical side, I started this thing where I do 100 push-ups a day. And I'll tell you, I started doing like 10 push-ups here, maybe 8 push-ups here, maybe 12 push-ups here. But I can do 45, 50 push-ups, no problem now. I think
Wow.
just by doing something like literally, 10 every hour, 10 every 30 minutes, 5 every 30 minutes, you can reach a goal. It's those little goals, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really helped me just kind of keep the food habits going, because I am getting up in the morning and I'm doing, the X amount of push-ups, X amount of sit-ups, just the little things. I don't go to the gym. I'm not trying to get huge or anything like
Yeah.
that. I'm just trying to maintain myself, keep my physical activity going. One thing I do lack, I will say, is running more and maybe a little more cardio than I need. But in general, I think taking my vitamins and supplements have been also a mental motivation for me to stay on a healthy track.
Yeah, I love that you brought up different things. Like I think a lot of times people think automatically about the physical self-care, and certainly a part of it, but you brought up the emotional, and also this supplemental, which I guess is partly physical too. But I push-ups, I'm like 100 push-ups would be like, woo, amazing. I lift, and as we get older, like it's so important to build our muscle strength, and your body weight can
100%.
certainly help with that. But this was super
So true.
embarrassing, but I tripped on in Old Town in Chicago this past weekend. Like I was
Oh
wearing
no.
I don't even know exactly what happened, but on the sidewalk, like down, like went down. And then luckily I didn't hurt myself, but I was by literally my next thing was like, I'm so grateful I strength
Oh my
train and
goodness.
work out that I get myself up and I'm not like brittle, you know?
So
So
true. So
yeah,
true.
super. So if you just start somewhere, like even a push up might be hard, but like put your hands against the wall and do wall, wall
Yep.
push ups. Or I have a TRX that when I work out with my trainer, we do a lot of TRX pull ups and push ups and stuff that way. But yeah, and micro acts, like little teeny things, like your 5 minutes of playtime, like go pet your dog. Like that's something that I do a whole talk on that for people, like on micro acts self care, because so many people, we don't like to should on caregivers. We're already doing so much, but at the
Sure.
same time, like we are so important to take care of because one, we're important people, like all humans deserve, to be cared for. And there's so much kind of relying on us that we are the nucleus of everything to kind of keep that going. So but a lot of people like will try to say, I don't have time for that. And I'm like, what don't you have time for? Your own, like,
Mm.
I don't have time for your own health and happiness. Like, we can't do that. We have to figure out how to make that better. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Sleep is important. Sleep is probably our
Sleep.
biggest thing. My wife and I, we're usually in bed by 9:30. And we've learned that if we don't get out of the house to go out with friends or out, to meet up with anyone, if we don't leave the house by 6:30, we're not going out. We're
Yeah,
staying home.
then you're into your bedtime. Yeah, it's
That's
like
right. That's right.
I love that. Well, let's keep the self-care theme going. I have a few questions I want to ask you from the Just For You Daily Self-Care Journal. This is a tool that I put out in the world to hopefully help people prioritize their health and happiness.
Love that.
Thank you. Um, who do you lean on for support, Vinny? Seems like a lot of people are leaning on you. Who do you lean on?
Oh my goodness. You know, I lean on literally the experiences I've been through.
Mm.
It's hard for me to think otherwise. I mean, if I have a question about something, I will find the person that I feel in my life is the most experienced on it. And it's not a one specific person. And to be honest with you, it's usually kids. It's usually kids in between the age of 7 and 12. I somehow now like I go to them because they just are honest. They ask the right questions of like, why do you even care? Like, who cares? Let's go do something else. They'll start bringing things up um, or they start asking questions. Why don't you do it with someone else? Does it make you
Mm.
happy? These kind of questions, right? And then I'll get myself over to the 26 to 30 year olds. I lean on them a lot because they're motivated, they're hungry, they're trying to make a difference, they're trying to be someone. Like that age, I feel is like that's
Yeah,
the age of us trying to become something or learning or trying or playing falling into our place maybe, um,
that's
or not
cool.
knowing and doing something right. So I think my lean on me support, is definitely others,
Yeah.
everyone. And it's not just one person, it's so many people. I mean, I'm going to call you for caregiving, like
Yeah.
there's no doubt about it, right? So you're fortunate in life. I've learned to meet people, and what you do with those relationships are really self-important.
Yeah, the network is key. And I think to your point, like hanging out with younger people, they've got fresh ideas and different ways of doing things, and they're going to kind
Totally.
of, keep you busy and mentally active and all of those things. So I love that answer. What are you a movie watcher? This is a movie question. Funniest movie or funniest movie you've ever seen, or one of the funniest movies you've ever seen? Like if you could just put it on, you're guaranteed to laugh.
Office Space.
Office Space, yes, the stapler and the
Yes.
TRS report, like
Yeah, TPS. Yep. Yep,
PPS,
that's right.
yes. Well, and I worked in IT too, so that one definitely like resonated with me. And
Yeah.
I should mention that to my son just started his first job, corporate job this week. And so like seeing that life through his eyes as he comes home and like is telling me about his new job.
So
And
funny.
yeah, but I think maybe he might need to revisit Office Space.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good for some laughs. Then even thinking it, sometimes you're like, I think this is our TPS report where I work. Yeah,
Right.
pretty
Yep.
funny. Is there a habit you're trying to subtract from your life? I think a lot of times we talk about adding habits, good habits, but is there anything you're trying to subtract?
Um, I'll say this from my wife's point of view. The amount of walking around I do in the house She just wishes I had a Swiffer in my hand. So maybe not walk around as much and try and gravitate to, I don't know, I don't know about a bad habit I'd be willing to break. I think everything's just, I take things as they come.
Yeah,
If there's an opportunity to drink a beer with a buddy on the dock, I'm there. If there's an opportunity to go, race cars or something, I'll try it. Or if there's an opportunity to do any foundation work, et cetera, that we do and be a part of something like that and sponsor, we're in.
I love
So I
it.
don't know if there's any bad habits I'm trying to break.
That's good.
I
Well,
mean,
you've been focused on stuff. Like I think
yeah.
you're clearly, like, your mindset is you prioritizing those things. So so good for you. My husband is on the phone all the time. Like, he's in sales. And so I will sometimes, I don't give him the Swiffer, though that's a good idea. He has started kind of walking and talking, so he gets more steps, but I'll be like, hey, can you just walk the dogs while you're having this conversation? Because
Right.
sometimes I'm just frankly tired of hearing him talk all the time. Like, it's just like, just go outside.
Oh.
Funny. I love you if you're listening to this episode, Jason. Yes. Well, very cool, Vinny. I've enjoyed kind of getting to know you, as we
Oh, thank you.
Boomer Dash News brought us together, but I think there's just so much more to what you are all about. And I
Thank
really
you.
think that
Thank
the
you.
aging in place stuff is hopefully a trend that we see continuing, because people, like you said, are living longer. I was a stat, I think that it was 10,000 people turning age 65 every day, but then I saw an AARP changed it to 12,000 people turning 65 every day. So doesn't necessarily mean that it's synonymous with disease, but I do think there's a lot of things we have to be mindful about when we're communicating and dealing with older adults. So thank you for bringing all of that to light.
Oh, thank you so much for having me again. It was very kind of you to offer this spot. And to all the viewers and listeners, keep listening.
Keep
You learn a lot
listening.
here. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much, Vinny.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.